Angela, Marvel Rivals' newest Vanguard and the 42nd hero, has finally arrived. And what I have in store for you today is the ultimate masterclass, or the ultimate guide to understanding and mastering Angela. We're talking abilities, playstyle, possible counters, different types of skills and combinations, everything you quite possibly ever need to know. And if you're new here or find yourself coming back in a regular and you aren't already subscribed yet, why not? It's completely free and you're coming back anyways. We're going for 50,000 subscribers, so might as well hop into the pond. And do me a favor about it, also hit that like button, greatly helps out the video and greatly helps out the channel. But that's enough about your time, let's dive straight into the abilities. Now, the biggest thing to notice when you're playing Angela is she's constantly flying, as she is, well, a flying tank, and she is a 4-star difficulty. I think this character does take some skill and it will take some time to properly master. Let's go ahead and talk about her primary attack in the flying form. That's the Spear of Ichors. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Basically, you lunge forward with your spear, dealing damage that increases with the attack charge. At full charge, the Spear of Ichors can deal more damage and launch enemies. And that charge or meter is directly under the crosshair, and you build it by just flying around and holding right click as well, absorbing damage. Now, staying on the topic of absorbing damage, let's talk about this shielded stance. You transform the Ichors into a shield, gaining attack charge when absorbing damage. It is a 350 HP self shield. Now, when do you use the shield? That is a question you'll probably be asking yourself. Well, the shield, you kind of use it to block cooldowns. You're not going to use it to shield and walk up. You could use it to kind of block a ton of damage for a super short duration. Now let's go ahead and talk about Assassin's Charge. This is her shift ability, or another one of her movement abilities while flying. You entered an accelerated dash state, becoming immune to knockback and launch up. Enemies struck head on are carried through the air for a short distance. Now, this is kind of like your Reinhardt charge from Overwatch, if you're familiar with Overwatch. You can use it to knock enemies off the map. It is a pretty cool feature, and it's another way to just do some damage and be a menace in the air. Following that, we come to her stance change ability, and that's a Divine Judgment on the E button for mouse and keyboard. So when you use Divine Judgment, you dive downward from exactly where you were and you switch to twin axes and infuse the ground with Ichors to create a Divine Judgment zone upon impact. Now, within that zone, you gain enhanced speed and attacks grant bonus health to yourself and nearby allies. So this character, in my opinion, seems very well suited for dive compositions. You fly into the backline, you press the Divine Judgment, and you dive in with a magic or a Psylocke, maybe a Black Panther, any of the other diving duelists, and you get that bonus health and you get that bonus attack speed for yourself and that diving duelist. You do gain quite a lot of bonus HP. You get to roughly around 750 HP once you've got all the attacks through. So that's definitely something to keep track of and keep note of. Now again, while you use Divine Judgment, you're on the ground. This means you no longer have the spear and you have the Axis of Ichors now. It's an alternative powerful strikes forward with twin axes, dealing increased damage as attack charge grows. The fourth strike propels you forward in a swift dash. Now, after being on the ground for a minute and you want to get back into the air, by pressing the same exact button you use for Divine Judgment, you use Windblade Ascent. You take to the skies, switching back to the Spear of Ichors. Now, something I forgot to mention is that while you're on the ground, when you use Divine Judgment and if you have the axes out, you can use the shielded stance as well, so you have the shield on the ground. Now let's go ahead and talk about her ultimate, Heaven's Retribution. You wrap your spear in ribbons and hurl it with force. Upon impact, the ribbons bind nearby enemies. Angela can leap to the spear's location, damaging surrounding enemies and creating a Divine Judgment zone. Now, something to be aware of is that this ultimate kind of works as a bungee to the enemies. If your enemies are inside of that zone and they're trying to get out of it and they jump, they will be pulled back to the center. However, if they just walk and don't jump at all, they can exit the zone, although they are slowed. Another thing to note is that the ultimate does have a HP bar. That HP bar is 1000 health, meaning it can be destroyed, so a character like Phoenix can counter this ultimate. It's definitely one of those ultimates you want to use in combination with another ultimate, kind of like Groot's ultimate, but I guess a little less than that, because it can be destroyed and it doesn't completely root them to one spot. So if you think about the characters that combo extremely well with Groot, well, they're probably going to combo extremely well with Angela as well. Now let's go ahead and talk about the team up ability, and this is a passive for Angela but a active for Thor. For Angela, it's Celestial Command. Angela shares fragments of her Ichors with Thor, empowering him to hurl a thunder spear that restores Thor force for each enemy struck. Afterwards, Thor can leap to the spear's explosion point, dealing a second wave of damage to all enemies within range. Now, the team up anchor bonus for Angela is bonus of 100 HP. Now that you got a decent understanding of her abilities, let's talk about her gameplay. Now, let's talk about the playstyle of Angela. The key to playing Angela is perfectly timing when to fly, when to stay grounded, and when to dive. Now, she is a pretty excellent pick to counter enemy teams with multiple flying heroes like Iron Man, Ultron, Human Torch, and even Storm. Angela can pretty much run down these flying heroes and stick to them like glue. Now, one of the best ways I've found to using her is to first take flight and target enemy flyers who are away from their teammates. When your team is contesting, immediately use the Assassin's Charge to impale 1 or 2 enemies to make room for your teammates. You want to make sure to use Divine Judgment and switch to your axis to apply consistent pressure. This is not only the way to, well, apply consistent pressure, but to also keep yourself alive with the bonus shield and the bonus attack speed. She also operates kind of like a pseudo dive character in my opinion, because you dive into the enemy's backline or wherever you see an isolated enemy, drop on them, use the Divine Judgment, and this maul the person to death with the axes. Now, while flying in the air, you want to do your best to have that maximum charge of the primary attack of the spear. It then first use the Assassin's Charge, then go into a primary attack with the charged up spear. This just gives you some more damage, and it really allows you to stick onto the flying enemy or to whatever enemy you're trying to pin down. Now, honestly, Angela could pin me down whenever, but that's besides the point. Now, just like any diving duelist or flanking duelist, Angela the Vanguard is going to be played to go into the backline, be a nuisance, and get out as fast as possible once she has all the attention to her. Just like a Thor, a Captain America, a Hulk. But she definitely has a little bit more survivability now when she goes into Divine Judgment. So I recommend, again, diving with a teammate with this character. Now, like what I stated previously, Angela's ultimate is kind of like Groot's ultimate in a fashion to where it's very easy to set up a ton of combos with a lot of the characters in the game. Whether you're comboing Angela with Moon Knight, maybe Blade, Phoenix, Winter Soldier. You could also throw Namor into the mix if you really want to as well. All these characters synergize with Angela's ultimate extremely well. Now, when a lot of people look at Angela's kit and look at the damage numbers, it doesn't seem like a ton of damage. And I truly think the potential for a character like Angela is extremely high. I think it has to be the right player playing the character, as you've seen with a ton of other characters that have been coming to Marvel Rivals. Definitely a super high skill ceiling character, at least in my opinion. Now again, I just want to reiterate that the playstyle, in my own opinion, is that of the Vanguards of Thor, Hulk, maybe Venom, or Captain America. You're diving into the backline, causing disruption, being super disruptive, grabbing attention, and then getting out when things become drastic. She is definitely not a character you want to go in and try to like 1v6 the enemies, although you can if you want to. It might not be the best outcome, but it is an option, but I wouldn't recommend it. Again, diving in being the most annoying player in the entire world. Now let's talk about some of the best combos I've kind of created for this character, or some of the best ability rotations to maximize impact. So moving on to our combos, ability rotation or optimization, whatever you want to call it. By the time this video is uploaded, there's probably going to be someone else's short about it, but this is something I found, is when you use Heaven's Retribution, which is the ultimate, you want to go directly into Divine Judgment, which is the E, and you swap to the ground form, because when you press Q, you can instantly leap, but instead you want to do Divine Judgment so you get the proc and the passive, and then you can re-Q again to do the extra damage and the extra burst damage. This allows you to get a lot of extra damage before you confirm the ultimate, and the ultimate ends up going away. So again, it's going to look like this. Q, Heaven's Retribution, fly over, E, you just auto attack, and then you leap to it again to get the re-proc of the ultimate. So it's definitely a very solid combo with her ultimate. It's probably the one combo I highly encourage you to get down for this character if you really want to make an impact in your games. Now moving on to the next ability rotation, or something to keep in mind, is that you want to save your shift ability, which is the Assassin's Charge, until you actually have the passive built up, which is directly under the crosshair, because you can either melee like so, if I don't miss, melee like so, and then go into the shift, or you can do vice versa. So you build up the charge again, like so. You go directly into the shift, knock them away, and then you hit them with the left click again to push them even further. So either combo works or either rotation works, whatever you choose to do first, but I would try to do that as much as you can. Try to always get the primary attack that is empowered or in charged. It's definitely the way to do the most amount of damage with this character. But as of right now, those are the two biggest things. So again, press Q, directly press E instead of pressing Q again. You auto attack, and then you press Q to get the reapply of all the effects. Definitely the best combination you can do for the ultimate. Now let's talk about some of Angela's counters that I found super successful. Now there are a ton of obvious ones like hit scan characters for flying heroes. Think Punisher, Star-Lord. You could throw in Winter Soldier, Black Widow, Hawkeye if you wanted to as well, Hela, and even Phoenix, the main hit scan heroes. Now when it comes to the strategy in countering Angela, you have to think of characters that kind of act like Angela as well. You think of Hulk, you think of Venom, you think of Thor. Those characters that dive into the enemy team's backline and disrupts them, pulls attention, gets everybody distracted and everyone focused on them. So in my opinion, when it comes to countering Angela, you have to use the same strategies like you're going against a Hulk, like you're going against a Venom. The second the Angela dives in, as she's flying, she's not crowd control immune, so you can use things as sleeps, stuns, roots, grounded, displacement, any types of those tools to keep Angela locked down and within your own team so you can easily shred her down. The whole idea is to completely disrupt her movement and not allow her to cycle her flying to landing ground attacks. Now after Angela uses her Divine Judgment when she goes down to the ground, she has a little AoE area that she gets bonus HP or overshield and attack speed. It's not there forever, it lasts a couple seconds, so if you can kite yourself out of that zone, and then after the zone goes away, just shred her down, that is going to be the best strategy possible. You want to fight on your terms, not her terms. So when she's in the Divine Judgment zone, she wants you in that zone with her as well, because she's, again, building up that extra HP. It's kind of like a Captain America, a Hulk, a Thor. The faster you can get rid of her in the backline, the better off it is for your team. Some other direct hero counters I found that go extremely well into Angela are characters like the Thing, because he can be immovable when he presses shift. He can jump up to Angela and knock her down with the new ability that he got back in Season 3, and he can be a complete living nightmare for any Angela player. But like I said, for the most part, when you're trying to counter a character like Angela, the first, ones that stand out, hit scan heroes, like I said previously, and then in terms of strategy, you're thinking about characters or strategy that goes against Hulk, Venom, Thor, Captain America, those types of characters. But anyways, hopefully this video has helped you in any way, shape, or form. If it has, make sure to hit that like button and make sure to subscribe to see some amazing Marvel Rivals content. Again, we're going for 50,000 subscribers, so might as well hop in. And if you want to see any other types of videos, let me know in the comments down below for Season 4. And if you're excited for Angela, let me know in the comments as well. But regardless, I hope you have a safe and great day, and I'll catch you in the next one.